Welcome to Mac and Bleu, where we introduce you to who is building Arizona, bringing you the people and businesses that shape the landscape around us. From economic development and developers, underwriters and lenders, architects and engineers, to the very builders and suppliers that bring it all together. Now let's join our hosts, Robert Johnson and JJ Levensky, aka Mac and Bleu.
Welcome to Mac and Bleu. I'm Robert Johnson, Vice President of Business Development with Torrey Contracting. This really salty dude today is JJ Levensky, President of Blue Wave General Contracting. And I'm joking about being salty. You're semi-salty.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. How are you?
I'm good. How about you?
I'm fantastic. You getting ready for Christmas?
Not really.
Okay.
We were kind of the laughing stock of the cul-de-sac because the day after Thanksgiving, everyone had their Christmas decorations up except for us.
I think this is horrible that you bring it up.
Now, we did get all the bins
We don't
down.
have anything up. So there's like a dark spot on my street. That's us.
You were always dark to begin with, but this was something more.
Yeah, it's horrible.
Especially between your ears, but I'll let that.
There is one house that's just to the left of us that has one like 10 light strand lining a sidewalk, and every time I go by, I tell my wife, "That's us next year. We're stepping up." So
You add that to a Charlie Brown tree, and life's good.
it's nasty.
Well, anyway.
Yeah, I mean, what makes this great is this is a really easy introduction. We have Todd and Todd with us today.
Yeah, we can screw the names up
You
and
pick
get it right.
whichever one you
Just
want.
don't get us confused. Yeah.
No, we have Todd Baum and Todd Nessler, both with Sun Valley Masonry. Did I say it
And
right?
concrete.
And concrete.
Really, it's Sun Valley Construction, right?
That's what I was going to correct myself because I did notice that that's the way it has been branded. Welcome, both of you.
Well, thank you guys.
Yeah, we usually don't take over the first 15 minutes like we just did, but
But we get self-esteem issues today, so we need
today it happened. So welcome. Let's start with you, Todd. I had to do it. I had to do it. It was intentional.
Okay.
Todd B., tell us a little bit about yourself, the company, and we're going to kick it off and go from there.
Great. Well, I was born in central Illinois.
We won't hold that against you, by the way.
Okay.
That's a great place to grow up as a kid. I moved to Phoenix when I was about 13 years old and followed the business out here. Going back into the business of how we got here. Was 1938. I don't know how in depth you want me to get with this.
No, keep going. This is good because
This is exactly
the
where we're
main reason is I think let me interrupt you. I think the history is really important because I think everyone recognizes your logo and brand in the Valley, and you guys are one of the biggest, if not the biggest, masonry and concrete combined companies. So I think the audience would really like to know more history. So go for it.
Sure. So in 1938, my grandfather was born and raised in Germany, and he got his trade in masonry. It's actually a stonemason, brick mason. And that was big there in Germany at that time. They'd have a trade. They had apprenticeships and whatnot. Before the war, then, he was able to get a boat ticket to America, and you had to be sponsored back then. And he was sponsored by a small farmer in Illinois, central Illinois. So he came to New York, made his way to a small town called Morton, Illinois, and worked for the farmer for 3 years. And it was kind of room and board, but he had to pay off his ticket, everything. And then once he was through with that, then he went off and he was able to get a citizenship. And then he started a little masonry company and called it Baum and Sons at that time. And
what year did he start?
So that was the company started in 38. So
Okay,
he arrived
okay.
in 35.
Okay.
And then the company started in 1938.
Okay.
So basically just got to start going around the town and the local towns, building chicken coops and barns and additions to houses and whatever he could, to make money. And then from there it just kind of grew. He had 4 sons. One had passed at an early age, so they had 3 sons that actually, I'm sorry, I had 5 sons, and then 4 kind of took on the company. The oldest, and he has passed, his name is Mel. And once he kind of got involved, they really grew the company at that point. So kind of fast forward into 1978, 77.
77, yeah.
Yeah. Todd's dad was actually a foreman for Baum and Sons, and
But this is back in Illinois.
back in Illinois,
So
correct.
we'll get to that history. Keep going.
Correct. Okay. And he was a real go-getter. He was one of those guys. I think he was actually doing more volume on the side than Baum was doing.
Oh, yeah.
Side jobs, but just a real go-getter of a guy. Awesome dude. And I had some history out here. My mom grew up in Phoenix, and had moved to Illinois, obviously, once she married my dad. And so we came out, spent a lot of time out here, and things in the 70s were a little rough there in Central Illinois as far as the economy and whatnot. So my dad and Ken got together, and they thought it would be a good thing to maybe start a business out here and put Ken in charge and have him run it. So that's kind of how we got started out here.
But it was it still Autobahn
We
masonry? Or
It
what?
was when we first came out here, and there was some union stuff
Issues,
going,
yeah.
issues
Sure.
going on. So that was the name change
Okay.
of what we did. And I'll kind of let Todd talk about his dad's story for sure. But we ended up moving out here in '83, and I started in the business in 1989. I say started full time. As Todd will attest to, we worked, from 7th grade, 6th grade, Saturdays.
peon
So you
laborers.
did work in the
Yeah.
field.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah. Oh,
Back-
yeah.
back
We didn't have
then-
a choice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And back then you could do stuff like that, nowadays, there's no way you could do that out in the field. But so that's kind of the history of how I started. And I kind of followed my dad's footsteps as being more in the field, was a laborer, bricklayer, foreman, and then got into the superintendent role, field superintendent. And then in 2017, my dad passed, and then I became president of Sun Valley. So that's kind of the short, long version of it.
Well, now we got to intermix Todd and
Because
Todd
it is
and-
intermingled.
Yeah. So now you get to go, buddy.
Yeah, no, that's it's great. Todd and I, we had met and had back in Illinois. Our fathers were good friends back there in Morton. Todd and I knew each other, didn't really have a close relationship back then. We were pretty young.
He's a
at
lot
that
older
time.
than I am.
not that much. No, so we moved out here in '77 and started the company and really didn't have. My dad didn't even know the street maps, the how to get around. You didn't have all the technology that you have today, and so my mom and my dad they set up a little card table in the middle of the living room, and he'd go out and build jobs during the day, and then at night, he'd figure plans, and that's just the way it was for a couple of years. And then in 1982, it was, we were in the country of Trinidad and Tobago. We were visiting my grandparents on my mom's side. And small. My grandfather was starting a kind of an offshoot company for Standard Oil.
Okay.
And so he was stationed over there for a couple of years. And day after Christmas, my dad and I were out there swimming in the ocean in the waves and caught a wave wrong and broke his neck. Yeah, third world country. They didn't even have a hospital at that time. It was more, Red Cross Center.
Oh my gosh.
So it took a while to get him back to the United States, where he was stable. And finally, after about 3 weeks, we were able to charter a flight, care flight to Florida. He spent about 3 weeks in Florida then, and then out here to Barrows. And thank God for Ducky, Todd's Robert. He goes by the nickname Ducky. They were partners, and Ducky and them moved out, and really kind of took over things. So instead of at that point, it was such a
So you weren't out here when this was going on.
That is correct.
Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, it was kind of a milestone moment. Sun Valley probably wouldn't exist today, had, Ducky not come out and, kept things moving. And as it turned out, at the end of the day, it ended up being such a great partnership between the two of them. Ducky would handle the field and Dad would get the work, and they were always fighting back and forth. It was,
But fighting like brothers, I would imagine.
oh, yeah. I loved each other dearly. But yeah, we were getting too much work. We were expanding our geographical footprint too quick. Ducky always had a saying, "Let's walk before we run." And my dad, just the nature of who he is, he always took off running. And
I got to interject one thing real quick. Is there's always a story that when that exact thing you said, walk before you run, and Ken was just such a bull and such a driver and wanted to succeed and pick up a lot of work and build this company. And it was within about a year or something. My dad said, "Here he comes in walking through these plans." He goes, "I couldn't even carry the things; they were so big for this big project." And it was the Borgata in Scottsdale.
Oh,
Which has since just been torn down a couple of years ago.
Isn't that sad? But anyway,
but that's kind of that the mindset that they had between the two, And but definitely, they got along great.
So hold on. So what happened to your dad physically then? Was he okay, or was he paralyzed, or what?
No, so kind of a quick story about him. He is the luckiest, unluckiest man I've ever met in my life, and I mean that in the most literal sense. So he ended up breaking his neck. He broke C5, 6, and 7. Put him in a manual wheelchair, and flash forward, my younger brother. He's very well known in the physical therapy
Trent,
world.
right?
Trent,
Yeah.
yes, yeah. And he started working with my dad on different muscle groups and strengthening them. And this is all unbeknownst to my mom. My mom was home. My dad would take off a little early from work, go to the physical therapy. Start
So all the
working with-
physical
Now,
therapy
hold on. Was your brother
like-
was already doing that at that time?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So he was fairly fresh out of school, started working with him, and then got him to the point where he was actually able to walk on loft-strain crutches. So my mom, and like I said, my mom had no idea about this. And so he waited until Valentine's Day.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, yeah.
And then sprung it on her?
Yeah. And well, they went out and he put When a Man Loves a Woman, that song. And he got out of his chair and danced with her for the first time in over 20 years. So,
What a
great
hopeless
story.
romantic.
if you go back
story.
into the archives, he was I can't even remember the year, but he was all over the news as a health hero of the year right before, everything came. But so then,
So you inherited the horseshoe that falls out of your rear end. Then is that?
well, kind of, yeah.
He's got some stories too.
Maybe a few, but we probably won't go there.
All right. So getting back on track, or is there anything else? You
Oh,
want to add
yeah,
about the
actually
dad?
there was,
So now
yeah.
keep going. Bring it back together now, because I got off tangential with your dad.
Sure.
So now, where are we? Were we back to 82 now?
Well, I want to kind of maybe add just a bit
Go ahead.
to that. So 2001, he was reliving his youth again and built a hot rod, 1,100 horsepower, and he had to drive.
Oh,
this
just a
thing.
mild thing.
Yeah. And so he was going to enter it in the Good Guys car show, and he brought it to the office. He wanted to give our safety director a ride in it, of all things. And
But that's an oxymoron if I ever heard one.
right? Yeah. So long story short, the hand controls failed. He wrapped it around a telephone pole. Flash forward, he broke his neck again for the second time. But you will never meet a more humble, positive, go-getting personality than him. And that's kind of, bringing it back full circle like you talked about. It's really, we wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for Ducky and my dad. It's really, those two gentlemen are
What an
just
incredible partnership.
made a steal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Made
very
us-
So there was
rare
Starsky
air.
and Hutch, and then Ducky and Ken.
Yeah.
That's rare air, though. That really is such a cool story.
Yeah. Yeah.
So then what happened? So you guys, we're all about the same age. So I imagine in the 80s you started working for them. And then what did you guys just explode in the 80s and 90s, or was it a gradual and then a thing? Like what's that 80s, 90s, early 2000s look like for Sun Valley?
80s were pretty tough.
Okay.
Yeah, 80s were real tough. The economy was fledging, wasn't doing real well. But at that given point in time, we had some peers and some competitors in the marketplace that went under, and we were able to, in the construction industry. People are your greatest asset, and
100%.
we're very fortunate to acquire some really good team players, that have been with us 20 plus years.
Wow.
So that helped. And then Ducky and my dad, they both found their groove together, and they're just kind of a well-oiled machine. So we made it through the 80s.
Was it a certain, apart from just their DNA, and you guys being that same DNA, was there a certain vertical or a certain thing that they gravitated towards that gave you guys that survival instinct in the 80s versus the competitors? Like, what was that niche that put Sun Valley on the map? Do you remember?
Well, I think just the survival. What you're talking about was just their sheer. They just
Grit.
they would just never give up. It whatever it took, 24 hours a day, Saturdays, Sundays.
Whether it was residential, commercial, whatever, just whatever.
Just dig and claw through it, and
Okay.
then at the other end, there's light at the end of the tunnel at some point. Obviously,
And it's not a train. That was
right.
That was the thing I always used to hear.
There was a few trains, trust me. My dad had them head on.
But I think what Todd kind of alluded to was being able to pick up some really good help in the early 80s when these other companies were going away and picking up their good help. They were always so good, and they taught us that just you got to hold on to those good people
No matter what.
at all costs, because that's
Even if you got to go in the
that's
red
right.
a little bit. Yeah.
Exactly, for those years that you just, and that really propelled us for when the 90s, when things started to turn and things started getting built again, and you kind of had that boom.
Yeah.
We were ready for it because we had those all the people that could build, the buildings and had the expertise to be able to do that. So that was really a huge lesson, especially going through some of the stuff we went through post 2008, 2009. We had a ton of good people, and it was being able to suffer through those years and keep those people on board for when things turned around, and so it was a really good lesson for us to see and learn.
Yeah.
So now in the 90s, when it did start picking up, then both your fathers were still involved, right?
Yeah.
And then how did you guys gravitate then? You worked your way up, both of you, but were you over here and you over here, Todd, or did you guys ever work together, or how did you?
Yeah, it's as Todd said earlier, when we, summers came around, weekends, and we didn't have a choice, and I'm so grateful for that. I mean, both of our fathers taught us a
Work
very
ethic.
solid, strong work ethic. When we first moved out here, without exaggeration, I was 11 years old, and I was working on a job site as a laborer, literally pulling a block around. I mean, I wasn't productive, but there was a lesson to be learned in that. And also through the 90s, both of our fathers had a very keen foreknowledge of succession planning, and they took a good 20 plus years in preparing us. And like I said, I'm very grateful for it.
Did they openly talk to you guys about it?
Oh yeah.
Were they on the same page, or did they differ in their opinions?
No,
Well,
think
I
they
don't.
were-
I don't mean it. Of course, they're going to differ on. They're not going to agree on everything. But what I meant, as far as like looking at you guys as the next generation, did they at least agree on that?
Definitely.
Okay.
No, they had. I believe 100% that they had 100% confidence in us.
Yeah.
And what they have taught us over the years. The thing is, would they ever retire? That was always the thing, right? With them. And if
So
it wasn't
true,
for
yeah.
Ken, what he went through with his health issues, and my dad passing away, they'd still be.
Oh, I know. yeah.
We'd have to kick them out.
Yeah.
Probably.
Well,
they
we'd
were
still
just.
probably be laborers out in the field.
Yeah, right.
So you talked about your father passing. When did he finally pass then?
2017.
Oh, so it was recently.
Yeah. He had battled lung cancer for 5 years.
Oh.
He was diagnosed in 2012, and he worked for a pretty good portion of that. Probably 3.5 to 4 years. He was pretty productive in what he could do. But that it was about the same time we started doing work in Oklahoma. By the time he got sick, and he was kind of able to take that end of the business and start just taking that and kind of left everything in Phoenix with me as far as the field goes. And that was a huge thing in my life because that helped me really prepare for what
That
my
was
future
kind of
was.
the push that got you.
So
Exactly.
No, did your dad exit about the same time?
Yeah, I think he pretty much a little before Ducky.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
And did you take his place
Yes.
immediately at that time.
Yeah, but it wasn't necessarily immediately because it was kind of a gradual.
Yeah, it had been going on anyway.
So by the time that he stepped back, I was very comfortable in the position, and the other nice thing too about the planning that they had for us is there's not one aspect of that company in a position that neither one of us haven't touched or worked in.
True.
And that's helped because now you understand what's involved, what it takes, and you understand the pain points and the pressures, so you can facilitate and help out in that.
Torrey Contracting, your full-service Division 9 contractor. Torrey Contracting operates with a smaller, hands-on team. This cohesive structure results in superior workmanship and economical solutions. We deliver projects with unsurpassed commitment to quality and stewardship of budget. Torrey Contracting, small enough to listen, big enough to deliver.
Yeah, this is such a rare story. I mean, us being in the industry as many years as we have, we've all heard the stories of successions gone wrong.
Sure.
So, boy, it's really rare.
So what we should do
to
is
hear.
go play the lottery with these two.
When we leave here today,
We'll buy a scratch off together.
Yeah, no, that's
And maybe
exactly.
we'll
We'll
take a
drive
gas,
ourselves
yeah.
because we don't want to ride with him.
Yeah,
So-
we don't want his dad. Don't want to ride with his
Unless
dad.
that's in the DNA.
Okay, so
Yeah, that's crazy.
boy, we got all these Okay,
Yeah.
so next one, the
Rabbit
Oklahoma thing.
Yes.
Well, no, let's go back. When did the concrete division start?
So
In addition to masonry, because
Okay.
that was masonry was the
bread and
core
butter,
ethos of the company, right?
yeah.
Okay.
But I just want to say, if I didn't want it to get missed. His mom, who passed also in 2017.
Yeah.
She was such a catalyst, also, especially when they first moved out to Arizona. She was just right there with Ken the whole way. And when we finally got an office, when did the office open? In
2000.
No, the other office, the one we didn't build. The original office.
Oh,
on
the one we
Northern there.
rented.
Yeah.
That was in that was 1980. Yeah.
But she was always the office manager.
She was
And,
involved in
yeah,
the business.
Very much
Yeah.
involved.
So
and
HR, AP, AR.
exactly.
Yep.
She did everything.
Keep
Oh,
it,
she did,
all
yeah.
that stuff,
Yeah.
that all that they wouldn't know how to do or didn't have time to do.
Or
And she-
didn't
Yeah.
want to.
But she was just a wonderful lady too. I just wanted to mention her.
Oh, that's
because
cool.
She was
Yeah,
such a
much
huge
appreciated.
influence, and
Yeah, she is a special lady.
yeah. But yeah, so
Okay,
concrete.
so how did that all?
So we were
morph?
just looking for different ways to expand
Yeah.
at some point,
And approximately what year?
It was 2004.
Okay.
And so there was a gentleman that worked for Baum. They're still in business, Baum company in Central Illinois.
Oh, they're still there.
They're still there. Yeah.
Wow.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
What's your cut?
In fact,
Yeah.
Todd's getting dividend checks on the side
Oh, they're still there. Yeah, he knew that instantly.
Yeah.
Like, oh, no, they're still there.
from the old country,
Those
if you know
checks
what
are
I mean.
still coming. Yeah.
yeah. No, I'm actually on the board actually. So that's
That's very neat.
Yeah, that's good.
But they, and in fact, just a little tidbit on them. So we, I might be jumping ahead, but the last 2 years we did the most revenue. Masonry Company did the most revenue in the United States last year and this year. And
Hold it. They did or Sun Valley did?
Sun Valley did.
Okay.
Okay.
and Baum was sixth, I think.
In the United
In the
States.
United
United
States,
States, yeah.
So you combine us together, we was
Pretty
over
powerful.
120 something million in revenue.
That's
Almost 130
amazing.
million, Yeah.
Yeah.
Good for you.
That's a lot of block in
Yeah.
concrete, guys.
That's a lot of block.
a
Yeah.
lot of
No, that
block.
was just
block.
just
That's
masonry.
just masonry.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
that is a lot of block. Yeah.
So, so concrete, yeah.
Yep.
So, we were looking to expand, and there was a gentleman that worked for Baum back there that was looking to just do something more, and so he was from the concrete side of things there in Baum, and we approached him, brought him out here, and kind of showed him around a little bit, and so him and his wife and kids moved out, and we started the concrete division with the intention of really it started with on the residential side. We did a lot of residential work, and they didn't have a lot of good concrete subs. And they were always like, well, why don't you start a concrete division? This would work well within your, and so we were dumb enough to listen to them. And no, just kidding.
Yeah, yeah, kind of.
no.
Kind of.
Yeah.
Kind of.
So that
Todd,
was
I got something for you.
for sure. So that was kind of the thought when we first moved him out, and that's just a hard residential because there's a lot of ins and outs with concrete anyway. But on the housing side of things, it's even worse. So we were in that. It took about within a year that we started.
We learned fairly quick.
Yeah, and we kind of jumped in more of the commercial
Because it
stuff
really
and-
was very much similar to what you were doing. I mean, it was kind of in that wheelhouse.
Yeah.
So
And and at one point, the North Valley was just exploding in custom homes, and guys, we had close to 200
employees
just working on residential.
Yeah,
200 just on residential.
Just on
residential.
residential.
Yep.
Yeah. So they were.
That's got headaches written all over it.
Yeah, they were in desperate need of, concrete,
Mm-hmm.
and so we gave it a shot, and it didn't work out well.
Well,
But the commercial's nice.
you learn forward though.
Yeah, we did.
You fail
Yeah.
forward.
Yeah. It's all
Okay,
a good
so-
learning experience.
So then after that, then what's the next evolution? Once you got past that crux with the residential to commercial switch, then what? Talk about the maturation of Sun Valley at that time.
So really, I was, we found a key individual, Chuck Paxson. Had a lot of experience through SunTech. Just a very dynamic, go-getter personality, great at selling work, understands how to build work, and really had a vision to do it all, everything from structural to tilts to podium decks to everything you can think of. And we've been very successful under that model. It took a little bit to kind of re-gear and revamp, but it's so much better when you can put a whole bunch of guys on one job and just stay there, and especially when they become experts at what they're doing, and that was kind of the whole philosophy. Changed it up a little bit, in that instead of having guys do multifaceted aspects of concrete work, have them more specialized in just certain aspects of what they do, and they become more efficient in what they're doing. So,
and Chuck, he courted us for actually about a year. He was out of the concrete business and wanted to get back into it again.
Oh,
And he called and we met, and it went about 6 months. We met again, and because really we were at the point: do we want to keep moving forward with concrete? We were kind of at that point.
tipping. Was it almost a tipping point?
Yeah, it was a tipping
was
point
yeah.
because we were going to. I mean, it was either find somebody to run it and grow, or maybe just shut it down.
Right.
And so we were at that point, and after meeting with them probably 2 or 3 times, we decided to hire him and hand over the reins to him, and it's a process, even with somebody that to start something. I mean, we had knowledge in it, but exactly what Todd said, it's this evolution of how all that happened, and to learn a different way of doing it than what we had been doing.
So from the masonry concrete, what was the next one? What was you got those settled and dialed in? What took it to the next level? Or is
that where you are right
Sun
now?
Valley construction level?
Just to that point for a moment, I mean, we're very fortunate right now in that we've got just a great team of very capable individuals. So, so often in our industry, you're limited in bandwidth to just yourself or your partner. And we've got several guys that are very capable. So we're looking at different regions. We're exploring different regions. I don't think it hurts to tell we're bidding on a large scale. The next evolution is Texas. We're bidding on the new Texas Tech University State Football Stadium.
I remember seeing that one.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So Oklahoma, there's an office in Oklahoma.
How'd you guys get there? Follow a client or what?
Yes, it was.
Okay, that's typically what brings him.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, it was right when things were crashing here, and it was 2010, I think, is when we got a call from just out of the blue from a general contractor, Timberlake Construction, out of Oklahoma, and they were bidding a county jail, a big
one,
scale
yeah.
county jail, and the architect that was was the architect on the job, said, "Hey, you should call Sun Valley from Phoenix,
Arrington Watkins.
Arrington Watkins."
Yeah.
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 And because they did a great job on, I think it was the Buckeye.
Yeah, Lewis Prison. Yeah.
Job, and
Yeah.
so they did, and it was kind of, it was, you wouldn't think you'd go to Oklahoma, right? Right. But that was the lead-in
For the
us
right
to-
job.
For the
Sure,
right
yeah.
job, and it was right about the same time we got a call from Holder,
Yeah.
and they were doing the Devon Tower, which is, I don't know if you've been down to Oklahoma City lately.
I
But,
haven't.
they have some tall buildings there, but this is like double any tall building that they have in the whole city. Really unique building. So anyway, they contacted us, and so we just kind of put those two together, and we're like, okay, well, this makes sense, right? And we had over 100 guys from Phoenix that were working in Oklahoma City that moved there for.
What'd you do? Just buy a hotel?
Or those apartments, those.
I mean, you do the per diem math. It's like Todd and Todd. You might as well just buy a small town.
Yeah.
A hotel, yeah.
No, and there again, that was expensive, right?
Right.
We went to a new region, but to be successful, we knew that we had to be good,
Sure.
Good quality, good safety, do what we say we can do on schedules.
Yep.
So that allowed us to be able to really show our talents,
And you're still there.
and we're still there.
Yep.
We probably have about 5 guys from that group that stayed.
Now, do you two have to travel up there much for business?
We do about somebody's always there at least once a month.
Oh,
for
good.
Sure.
Good. But you have a management team there. Right?
We do.
Yeah.
And an office and yard. And
So Oklahoma, Texas, any others? Any other locations right
Reno.
now currently?
Reno, Nevada.
Oh,
yeah.
Reno.
We're currently working on the Tahoe Event Center.
Nice.
Up there, finishing that up. Yeah, that's a pretty area up there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So do you fight about who gets to go to Tahoe?
Depends if it's ski season or not.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get it.
All right, so go back. Todd Baum, you brought this up. What got you through the recession? Other than the advice from your fathers, did the Oklahoma thing save you for the recession? Or tell us about what you guys did specifically to get through that.
so that definitely did help. Like I say, we were able to take all of our a good portion of our
good
good
portion,
guys, and be able to send them there to kind of weather the storm. Didn't make any money. A lot of years we made zero, and sometimes in the red.
Right.
But
But you controlled the fade, though.
exactly, and we had that end game, right? That we knew things were going to turn, things were going to get better. So we just knew that we had to, weather the storm of what we had to do to get to that point. And that was just, and probably the biggest and foremost thing was keeping our people,
Right.
keeping those guys working, and so that was probably
Staying relevant.
for sure, yeah.
Which is tough for us old guys.
And really,
Speak for yourself.
Hey, well, I was speaking at you, not
Oh,
with-
yeah, gotcha.
just seeing if you're paying attention,
I
young
was.
fella.
I'm coloring.
and we really had to learn different ways to get work. It was
Right.
a lot more marketing. We
Yeah.
had to learn a lot of the business development end of things that we never had to do before.
Exactly.
So we had to kind of get out of our comfort zone
Right.
and figure that out. And so that definitely helped too. And it's made us better today because now that we've learned how to do it, we know how to get our name out there. And
What I'm not going to go into revenues, but being as you're one of the largest, what is that, for the audience sake, what does that mean for manpower? Like, how many people are in Sun Valley Construction right now? What's the number, plus or minus?
We have right around 500
Holy,
employees.
that's a lot.
Yeah. And when they're in multiple states and multiple job sites.
How was that Christmas party?
Yeah, that's what they're doing. They're going to Oklahoma
I
for a
hope
Christmas party.
I hope they use name tags because I won't remember
Yeah.
more than 20.
That's amazing, guys.
Congratulations.
Yeah, mega.
Well,
props
we've
for
got a
that.
good team of people.
Yeah.
We really do, and a lot of different layers. And it's I think one of the things I'm most proud of with Sun Valley is the tenure, the average tenure of our employees. And I mean, we've got probably 40% that are 20 years plus.
I say at least.
At
I say
least, if not
yeah.
50%.
Yeah.
Now, are you getting their next generation?
A lot of them, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because
Yeah.
look at you two, and look at your families, and now if you can do that with your employees, that's like a double home run.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm curious. That being the case, it certainly appears that you two are a good judge of people. I would say, and maybe that's in the DNA. I'll give it the DNA. We'll give it the DNA.
I'll give it their therapist, but that's fine.
How fast, this is just more from my crazy thinking, but how quick are you able to recognize a bad one? With the culture that you have already gotten, how quick is it that one's identified?
I think we're pretty quick.
Yeah,
we're
I
pretty quick.
would have
Just-
guessed it would be a
That's a
quick
great
one.
question. That's a great question.
They
Right?
flesh out pretty quickly.
Yeah.
They're either going to fit or they're not.
Yeah.
I mean, you can probably tell that most of that in your conversation. And let's face it, we talk about this all the time here. It's a very close-knit community, and especially when you get trade-specific. So people know people, everybody knows somebody. So if somebody's got a bad rep out there, somebody else already knows about it and is going to let you know, or you know already.
Sure.
So it's something that you can identify relatively quickly. How many coming from out of state? How many do you find from out of
That's
state?
a good question.
Really, the supply of good skilled people is very limited. So we're very involved in training and educating the youth. And on the masonry side, we're very active in the Arizona Masonry Council.
Right, which we've had Dawn on.
Which you had Don on.
I was going to go down that rabbit hole, but you just did. So
Yeah, there's, we're very involved in their apprenticeship program and overseeing it and being part of that leadership and running people through that. And they do a really good job in networking with the vocational schools. So it acts as a feeder program, also working with the correctional facilities.
There's one we haven't heard.
yeah,
yet.
we haven't talked about that one.
Yeah, so there's there's several programs out there that individuals within the correctional facility can apply to and actually do part of their apprenticeship training, while they're serving, and then feed into our program. And then on the concrete side, it's surprising. As large as that industry is, I mean, the concrete industry encompasses almost every building, and there's no formalized training. So
I just realized as soon as you started down there, I'm thinking to myself, I think I know where he's going, and that's astounding.
It
when
really
you really
is.
stop and think
Yeah.
about that, that's like, it's
Yeah.
because it's flat. It's a wall.
Yeah.
You build something, you dump concrete in. How tough can that be?
It's unbelievable. So we went through a very arduous time, and we worked with the state Department of Labor and developed our own curriculum and program with the state, the apprenticeship program. They even took it one step further and worked with, on a national level, the NCCER guidelines, which really sets the curriculums nationally, so that a journeyman that gets his card here can go to New York or California and be recognized as a journeyman. So we hired a full-time instructor and a half-time coordinator, and about once a quarter we advertise for apprentices, and we'll accept 5 to 6 per class, and we'll get maybe 20 applicants. So we go through an interview process with them, make sure they're committed to the program. And, it's a 3-year program, so, I mean, it's nothing to take lightly. But that, between those two, between the Masonry Guild or the Masonry Council and our own home, it's produced a lot of good, knowledgeable craftsmen that are coming out of it.
It's pretty obvious
Yeah, that's
why their
yeah.
people are the way that they are.
Well, and as you guys know, I mean, a lot of our guests, we've spent a lot of time, whether it was Dawn or, even Travis and Robert on the CTE and things like that. We've been really trying to put that as an emphasis on this podcast, because we're all suffering from the same issue, that we just can't find enough good people.
Yeah.
Well, willing it to happen isn't gonna solve the problem. Where you guys are putting you're walking the talk.
Your stories are rare. Now, I grew up working. My son came up in it. Now, he changed with something else, but you both came up in it. That you don't see that much anymore. I mean, my son was like, Dad, I don't want to do this my whole life. This is hard.
But them putting their time and money into it now is a different story.
That's a really giving back. piece of it. So yeah.
Are you
Well,
finding, because back what he said, even though we have competitors, we're all kind of friendly with it, I mean, most days anyway, but are you finding that through your lead, your friendly, your competitors are also starting to adapt that or do it as well? Are you finding any traction with that, specifically on the concrete side, or not?
Not yet. I think there's some genuine interest in it,
Right.
and I mean, it really is it's a big financial
Yeah, it's tough.
undertaking, and at some given point, I'd like to turn it over to an association and an industry association, but I want to make sure that it continues and progresses. I mean, we've graduated now 7 classes of individuals, and one of them, our very first graduate, he's a real success story for us. He came to the company, didn't know anything about construction at all, worked as a laborer. One of the requirements is you have to work out in the field for 6 months because it is hard work.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
And it's tough getting up at those early hours. It's tough working out in that heat, and the work itself is tough. And so this individual, Daniel, he worked for us for 6 months, applied for the program, got in, went through the 3 years, and now he's one of our foremen, and a really good foreman too. Yeah, so he's kind of our poster child.
Yeah.
I thought you were.
Oh no, that'd be bad.
Different kind of poster. Yeah.
more like FBI, style.
Most wanted.
There comes a time when dreams become a reality, when you see your vision materialize into a true work of art. And the only way to get there is to choose a general contractor who shares that same vision and knows how to bring it to life. At Blue Wave, we aren't so big that we've forgotten where we've come from, and we aren't so small that we can't care for your projects regardless of their size. When your vision deserves safety, perfection, timeliness, and expertise in order to become a reality, trust Blue Wave to get it done right the first time.
And I think one other thing that we've done on especially the masonry side, that being a labor is probably the toughest, because it's just harder work when you got to build scaffold and stock block and mixed mortar, or a block layers or a brick layer. Hard work, but you're just you're in a spot, right, and you're doing your thing, and you got that trade going. But we've invested. We kind of made that decision that how can we make the job easier, right? To get people.
And how do you appeal to somebody? You want to come do the hardest thing out there on the site.
Exactly. And so one thing that we've done is just invest in the equipment that can make the job easier. And we've invested millions and millions of dollars in the hydromobile scaffold, which is a hydraulic scaffold. So it's just basically you get it set up, and then it's just levers that goes up and down. And so that's just that probably made the laboring job 50% easier than it normally would have been, in the past. So just things like that, having newer equipment, the best forklifts, the ones that can do the cranes, and what we can do to make things easier on our guys, and appeals to people wanting to work for us, because we do have the equipment that we can get jobs done and get jobs done easier
And safe.
and safer.
Do you, and as a client of yours, you've been on our jobs with that, and it's so nice. I mean, fast, efficient, safe, all those kind of things. So now I'm going to put you guys on the spot because this is a tough one. When it's not your money, it's easy to always second guess things, right? And you guys have put, like you said, Todd, you've put out millions of dollars to make it better. Are you being forced to go down the robotic line at all in any of the grouting or any of the things? Are you guys steadfast on that? That's just going to be laborers forever and ever and tenders. And I know it's a tough question because I'm putting you on the spot, but I just know that all of us in our industry are collectively being forced to go, hold it. With demand going like this and labor going like this, we're going to have to use some artificial intelligence at some point. Where do you guys see that coming in with you guys?
It's definitely coming.
Yeah.
We've actually tried out a few different. It's called. Can't think of it. the mule. You'll see them around town.
Yep.
As some of the contractors have bought them. We always want to be keen and give that respect.
Keen is the right word, Todd.
Yeah, and just be in front of all that stuff.
Yeah.
We tried it out, and it's going to be good someday, but
Just not now.
Just not now. And for us to be the guinea pig of that, I gave them everything that I thought, for future. Here's what you need to do for me to be interested in it. It needs to do X, Y, Z, and it could only do X. So, but future, I think that's definitely going to be a part of what we do.
And we're all getting forced to ask those tough questions.
I think one of the ones that we're really keeping our eye on right now that may parlay better into our industry is the exoskeleton.
Yes.
If you've seen
Yeah.
those.
Oh, yeah.
I was going to bring
No,
that
that's
up.
a great
Yeah.
one.
Yeah, that could probably work our way into our industry a little and adapt a little faster.
Because you're never going to get away from having to pick up heavy stuff.
Well,
you know.
it doesn't matter if it's concrete or masonry. You need there's a lot of intellect that goes into laying out work and understanding, and you have to have that human intelligence, and and adapt. As we all know, construction sites are an imperfect world, and we're trying to make it perfect out there. And so far we haven't seen any type of AI or robotics that can really adapt to those imperfections and stay within the tolerances that you need, as well as the productivity.
Yeah, great points. Really good points. What have we not asked you that we should?
I think, and one other thing I believe that I'm proud of what we've done different probably than our dads did was being able to not micromanage so much, be able to put people in control of different facets of the company. Because we knew, doing things 10, 12, 20 years ago, it takes about 4 times the people to get things done, just from a clerical standpoint.
Right.
We've shifted to a whole different model than we had before, where you had an estimator and they estimated the job and they kind of followed the job through, and with the PM type side of things. And with concrete, we have 6, 7 full-time project managers that work through the jobs as they hand it off from the estimator to the project manager, and they take it from there. And just such a fantastic team. But that's one of our selling points is we have this PM, section of our company that's not only there for our benefit, but it's there for the benefit of the general contractor to look ahead on things and to, there's going to be a process. There's so many things that I know when I was running around in the field, it was like I only had so many hours in the day that I could go visit with a superintendent and get everything out that, I could see coming down the pipe. And so that's one thing I think that we've been able to. We had that vision of that as something that we can use as a
Selling point.
as a selling point and a benefit for all parties.
I think you're talking about kind of your legacy, Todd. And I mean, without tooting your own horn, your fathers took it from here, and you guys are taking it to here. And now I have a funny suspicion that you two are grooming the next generation to take it to there, whatever that there is. And, having worked with both of you, I've seen nothing less than that. So is there anything else you want to share on that, either one of you? I mean, do you have...
You want to call out those successors now so they can start fighting now?
Right. I mean, you talked about Daniel and you talked about Chuck, but is there any other family members that you guys that are beneath you or that are young? I don't say beneath you, structurally, just age-wise, that are you guys grooming them? Any children or anything to take over?
Definitely,
Okay.
definitely. I have 2 boys, and one's actually went through the masonry apprenticeship program, just graduated. So he's working out in the field right now, and he's a lifer.
Whether he wants to be or not.
Yeah. My youngest, he's still trying to figure it out. He's 19 years old, and we'll see where he lands.
Yeah.
But we have other individuals that are part of our company that we've
Kobe,
Right, which we talked. That's your nephew. Yeah.
Right,
Kobe's.
and there's 2 more of those boys that are working in that lineage or same lineage, but my nephews basically.
Nice.
But one other thing I wanted to point out too was back in the day too, there was the old thing was, a guy would become a foreman, and a lot of times that was good enough for them, right? They
yeah.
get to that point, and that'd be the end
A
of
lot of the time, that
where
was
they
it.
wanted
I hit
to
the
be.
top.
And-
I just said I plateaued.
yeah.
I'm
Right.
as good as I want to ever get.
But there's so many guys now that they want more, right? They've been a foreman for 10, 12 years, and the body takes a beating, and we've been able to take those guys and move them into different roles
Yeah.
within our company. That's made us better. And
Estimating, project management.
Yeah.
And they understand the field. They understand the logistics.
Yeah, you've clearly learned what a lot of people don't learn, and that's that surrounding yourself with people that have strengths that you don't have is the key. I mean, and to be comfortable with it. I mean, I know you can't tell me this, but in your mind, maybe it's just because the number's too big. How many people have you hired that became a competitor? Now, maybe not a competitor that's going to take
Oh, they
business.
have. Yeah.
But that's my point. You can't fear that when you're
Right.
when you're hiring and training people. You get the good ones, and you try your best to keep them.
Todd's going to roll his eyes when I talk about this, but there's a lot of different leadership styles in companies, and
Especially construction.
there are, and all too often you see more of a dictatorial, leadership, and in some circumstances that works very well, but it also limits the bandwidth. And Todd and I, from early on, we've with great intentionality, we try to lead as servitude leadership, meaning that those people that we surround ourselves with, our job is really to clear the path for them so that they can excel at what they're doing. And if they excel, then we're successful. And that's why I'm so happy with the team that we have, because we've got some really talented individuals. And if we can just stay out of their way, it's unlimited.
Yeah.
And really, I think a motto of ours, or a business model of ours, has been we want to be able to help somebody professionally get further,
Sure, better themselves.
professionally better themselves, and that's really been something that we focused on too, for sure. And I think it's done very well for us.
I know you guys give back tremendously to the community because I've just known you guys long enough now. But if you don't mind, I think there's a couple things that you might want to share with the audience. I know you guys do. You're very passionate about. I believe it's the stuff in like Haiti, right?
Yeah.
Do you want to just let the audience know like what you guys are doing and why?
Sure. Go ahead, Todd.
So we do two things that we support. One's in Haiti, and it's a really cool. It's a guy that actually used to work for us. He was a foreman for us, and he was actually the ones that he bailed on us at one point and did his own thing. But a really good Christian guy. And my dad actually worked with him probably about 10, 12 years ago, and he went to Haiti and worked there for about 4 or 5 years and supported by Sun Valley. And since then, he started it's actually a training. So he started a business there, and it's to really train not only, everybody goes down there and does work teams, right?
Right.
They go down there and they build, and what are they really learning at the end of the day? They're just getting something built for them, and as humans, we don't take care of it, right?
It was funny
and-
because I don't mean to interrupt you, Todd, but I think I just saw a special on 60 Minutes or something where they're talking about Haiti as it was some sort of documentary where they were showing all of the corruption in Haiti and showing all the wonderful things that all these, and let's be honest, that most of them were some sort of religious affiliation from the United States or Europe where they're going in to try to help all these people. But that's the problem, Todd, is most of them were here and gone. There was a lot of fraud in where the money went, almost like laundering, if you will. But then that's why I wanted to bring it up, because I thought about you guys when I was watching. It was just last week. So anyway, I segue back to that, but saying, yes, that was how this was framed, was that for 10 of the organizations, there's only one that's really doing what you're trying to talk about. So keep going with that.
Yeah. So basically, they work, they train, and they teach them. They bid a job, and they go build it, and they're training the guys to do it, and they get paychecks at the end of the week.
Isn't that cool?
And so it's just teaching them that this is how it works, right? You
The real
work
world.
and you
Yeah.
learn. The better you get, the more money you make. And so it's a small fragment in all the troubles that they have there, but it's a start of and
It's doing something.
it's doing something. So it's really been cool to be a part of and be able to we rally the troops and get as much stuff as we can down there, mixers and backhoes and whatever we can. We have a charity golf tournament that we do every year that supports that, and also the Hands of Love.
Hands
is
of Love
part of that.
Ministries, which supports orphans and builds orphanages for them throughout the world. And Brenda Williams and her husband have just done an incredible job of reaching out, and they just kind of did it with blind faith, and it's really grown exponentially, and they're benefiting a lot of kids out there, and we're very happy to be a part of that and supporting it. So.
And Brent's a foreman for us.
Yeah.
And it's
Oh,
his
I was
wife.
going to say,
Yeah.
what's the connection?
Yeah. So it was really cool to be able to work with him on
So
that.
I'm going to steal his.
Do it.
What haven't we asked it before? I'm going to ask again. What haven't we asked you guys that you want to let the audience know about? Either one of you, Sun Valley, the future, current state, anything. What are you dying to tell the listening audience that loves construction stuff?
Well, love our clients. And, of course, JJ, we've done plenty of work together in Bleu, but it's, we're selective in who we partner with, because we're not a low-cost provider. We're a service provider. And, the first thing that we do when we hit a job which we haven't touched on, but is safety. Safety is ingrained in everyone from the top down. And, and we like to partner with our clients, and we have a lot of fun with them. We enjoy the work that we're doing with them, and get some laughs and make a little money along the way. So, yeah.
And Todd,
Sure.
the other Todd.
Yeah. No, I kind of the same what he said. One thing I did want to mention that all along the way, that's been a huge part of our companies, starting back in the Otto Baum days from my grandfather. Very faith-based organization. First and foremost, we give all glory to God, for everything that we do, and I think that keeps us grounded. Right. We don't want to get prideful. We want to get, but it's also how we treat people, how we treat clients. Is it all comes from that center, right? That's very important to us. So,
Yeah.
Very interesting. Very
Well
good
said.
stuff, too. Well, we had two people on today that basically we could have just turned over and said, look, just listen to these guys for an hour. They know what they're doing. And
So what you're saying is we should have followed their cue and done servant leadership and just got the hell out of the way?
isn't it funny? But isn't it funny? They that's a theme that, and I don't know if you've seen, but it's a theme that pops up here all the time with the people that are successful. That's the key. They get it, and
Well, and you two are a testament to that as well.
absolutely a testament to that as well. You have anything else, or are we gonna let these guys get out of here?
No, full disclosure though, we had an awesome guest on a couple of weeks ago that is
We did. That is related.
of Todd's lineage.
Yeah, just which Todd? Well, you'd have to just all you have to do is get on and look.
No,
just
don't
figure
tell
it
them.
out. Just
Tell
tell them
the
figure it
audience.
out.
They've got to go figure it
Yeah,
out.
I'll get messages like, I don't know. I mean, they're both Todd. How do you tell? Anyway,
Maybe look at the last name. I'm just
Yeah.
throwing out a hint. But
yeah.
Thanks,
so,
gentlemen.
thank you very much.
Yeah,
We'll
thank you,
definitely have you
guys.
back on again. It's been a joy.
Absolute
Great. For us
pleasure.
too.
You've been listening to the Mac and Blue Show, brought to you by Tory Contracting and Blue Wave General Contracting. Be sure to subscribe to the Mac and Blue podcast on your favorite podcast platform. Follow Robert Johnson and JJ Levensky on LinkedIn and Instagram. Tune in live every first and third Thursday at 3 p.m. as we continue to introduce you to the people building Arizona. Walt Disney said, "You can dream, create, design, and build the most wonderful place in the world, but it requires people to make the dream a reality." Until next time, make it a great day.